Ready, Georgia? I'll let Georgia say her message. Okay, ready? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tashira Garraway. I am the founder of Family Supporting Families Against Police Violence. And I am first and foremost the fiance and the mother of Justin Tigan's 14-year-old son. Justin Tigan was brutally beat to death by the St. Paul police August 19, 2009, and thrown inside of a trash dumpster. I stand here today with a mother that also lost a son, Demetrius Hill, who was 18 years old and shot in the back by the St. Paul police. I also stand here today with an elected official, the president of the NAACP, Angela Rose, John McClellan, the president of Minnesota Justice Coalition. We stand here today demanding justice, demanding that the Senate, that the legislators do the right thing today. We know that they have started negotiations for bills that are rooted in our family stories. The bills were written out of the hurt and the pain of the families that have lost our loved ones at the hands of law enforcement here in the state of Minnesota. In the last 20 years, there has been over 470 murders at the hands of law enforcement. What we seen this time last year with the murder of George Floyd, there has been hundreds of murders that have led up to George Floyd. So George Floyd is only the face of hundreds of bodies. In the state of Minnesota alone, 470. And just as George Floyd is the face of many bodies, Derek Chauvin is the face of many murderous cops around Minnesota. I would like to say today that our community and our families do not have a hate for police. However, we want people to do the right thing, no matter their position, no matter their skin color, no matter their religion, no matter their sexual orientation. We want people to do the right thing and treat people as human beings. And as we have seen, that has not been happening. There is a problem, a serious, serious problem here in the state of Minnesota. The biggest, highest profile cases in history have come from the state of Minnesota. Dante Wright, Philando Castile, George Floyd, Jamar Clark, the ones that many know about. But behind all the high-profile case, there's hundreds of bodies. Our people in the community, poor white people, Black and indigenous people, Asian people, we deserve to live in our communities without the police adding to the hurt, adding to the crime in our communities. So we are here today to ask that the bills, police accountability bills, are passed. There is no way that our families should be out here pleading for the truth for our loved ones. What has been done at the hands of law enforcement is wrong, and they have added to the pain that is already in the communities. And we need people, when they do wrong, to be held accountable. And because you are a police officer, does not give you the right to hurt the citizens in which you serve. We are tired, and our families are hurting enough. And it is time for Warren Limmer and Paul Gazelka and everyone that controls the Senate to do the right thing for the people that they serve, for their communities, and most of all, human life. Thank you. We will now have the mother of Demetrius Hill, who was shot and killed at 18 by the St. Paul police. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Marilyn Hill. My son was gunned down April 28th of 1997. He was killed in an apartment building at 1335 Westminster, where his grandma lived and grandpa. I am asking for them to reconsider looking at these bills. We need these bills passed because I know that my son's case is a homicide, and I need the truth to come out. Not only my son, all these stolen lives. This year, since George Floyd, it's been a tremendous trend going on with these amount of killings. This gun violence needs to come to a halt. I understand that the community is in fear of their lives, and we want the bills to come out and be open, but we also want them to be reopened and investigated. I'm asking for the senators to really have a heart and an understanding that I am a mother who lost a child, and these bills are very important for us to have passed so our cases and my case can be reopened. That's all I'm asking, for you to understand that I want justice. Thank you.
We will now have the president of the Minnesota Justice Coalition, John McClellan.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Johnathon McClellan. I'm president of the Minnesota Justice Coalition. We are part of a collective of organizations that work with the families and community to draft and advance legislation and other policy initiatives at the state capitol here in St. Paul and in Washington, D.C. I want to give my deepest condolences to the families who should not have to be here and whose lives have been changed forever. After the deaths of George Floyd and Daunte Wright and now Winston Smith, we were given a window into the reality that Black and brown communities face here in the state of Minnesota that justifies why we need police reform legislation. Our greatest failure is to do nothing knowing what we know. The people have sent a mandate to the Minnesota legislature. We want substantive police reform legislation, not watered down bills that will accomplish nothing, as if George Floyd, Daunte Wright, and Winston Smith, and many others never happened. I know that some of the committee members wish things would just go back to the status quo, but you can't put that genie back in the bottle. It is important for the state of Minnesota to advance reforms and practices that provide the community with accountability, transparency, and justice. Our community deserves a police department it can trust. The lack of trust from our communities and the police warrants a legislative response that will address the community's concerns and promote meaningful action. These are not partisan issues, these are Minnesotan issues, and Minnesotans deserve transparency, accountability, and justice within the police departments and our state. We are asking for the committee members to do the right thing and pass the police reform legislation for these families who have carried this weight of loss and to prevent other ones in the future. We know that real change happens with legislation. We don't mind winning some small local victories out there in the public, but we have to infect the root with real reform. This is why these murders keep happening. Since I was a boy, these murders were happening, and now they're filmed, others are not, and they're still happening. We are in the right place. We have brought forth the right legislation. The question is, do these legislators see our humanity? Thank you.
We will now call forward Representative John Thompson.
Ladies first.
He's being a gentleman. We will now call forward the President of the Minneapolis NAACP, Angela Rose.
I stand here today in solidarity with the families that have been impacted by police violence. And we come to the legislature, we come to the state capitol today because today is the final push. Today is when they are negotiating our lives in this building. This is the first day, the second day that the state capitol has been open to the public, so we haven't been able to actually even physically see our representatives in person at this legislature, at this capitol, while they were in session for 2021. So it is crucial that they see us and they hear us now. You can't negotiate Black lives anymore, and then you can't just go along and not putting our policies in place. When you are banking on the Black vote, when you are banking on us coming up with ideas and then you don't listen to us, it is a tragedy. We're fighting for our lives here today, and we're fighting for justice, justice through policy change. True justice is policy change. True justice, when it comes to police transparency and accountability, means there needs to be a policy in place that holds police officers accountable. It is a shame that last week, Winston Smith was murdered and there's no body camera footage. That is a policy issue. It's an issue when it comes to the fact that we don't trust the police to tell us the truth. And so when we give them the policy recommendations and they are not enacted upon, and then again another Black man is murdered, another unarmed Black man murdered, and there is still no body camera footage, there's still no transparency from the police, that is a shame. And so when we're talking about even the bills today, one of them being the ending of the statute of limitations upon the investigations of these police murders, we're looking at that saying, we know for a fact that the police have lied. If it wasn't for a viral video, George Floyd's name probably would have been put under the rug and put dirt on his name just the way they put dirt on Winston Smith's name. So it is crucial that we open up these cases. And what we're asking for is dignity, it's for respect, and it is for our humanity. And we're not going to be negotiating around our lives, okay? That's one of the things that we're standing here to say. These families have been hurt enough. It's time for the legislature, it's time for our representatives to actually listen to the families, actually listen to those who have been impacted. In every other policy case, you actually go to the business community when you're talking about economics and what's going to impact small businesses. You actually listen to small businesses' recommendations. Well, now we're saying when you're talking about police accountability and police reform policy, actually listen to the experts. And these are the experts. Thank you.
We will now have Representative John Thompson.
Good afternoon. I'm Minnesota State Representative John Thompson, District 67A. I stand in solidarity with these leaders behind me in asking our government to actually put some meaningful legislation on the books that will put the fear of something in these police officers. And I do hear the cry. As a matter of fact, I saw yesterday Paul Gazelka and Kurt Dowd. And I saw them in North Minneapolis talking about crime. And it just warmed my heart to know that they care so much about North Minneapolis. Only when it calls for you adding more police. But when we ask for things like help rebuild Minneapolis, you know, the Minneapolis that burned down, they said it's a Minneapolis problem and not a legislative problem, and they should fix their city themselves. When we ask for culturally intelligent tutors in our community, something for our kids to do, when we ask for you to invest in the communities that you're complaining about, we get nothing. But the minute we ask for more police, you show up and you say, we need more police. And I'll give you that. I'll give you that. Let's just say we need police, more police in Minneapolis. What are you going to do about the police officers that are there right now? The ones that we're complaining about, the ones that are killing our future. What are you going to do about that? Because we can invest in police. I think we invested $36 million into Operation Safety Net, and nothing was protected. Then we invested another $9 million to pay the state patrol because they ran out of money protecting nothing. And here we are right now asking for money, $20 million of the governor's budget to do some public safety, community-based public safety, and you tell us no. So my question to the governor is, do black bodies matter? And I've asked to meet with the governor's office, and I'm getting a phone call return. I do know that Kurt Doubt, Warren Limmer, and then the Republican from Elk River was in Minneapolis. And it warms my heart to know that you care so much about Minneapolis when it comes to policing, but you can care less about black bodies dying in the city of Minneapolis. You play politics with our bodies only when it's convenient for your call. My call is to ask you, when will you start investing in the things that you're complaining about? When will you start investing in black children? When you start investing in families? Because we spend a lot of money in locking people up, policing, over-policing our communities. The thing about the cry for more police is they seem to find the right white police officers all the time to over-police our communities. And the thing that happens when they over-police our communities, because we're asking police to stop crime in Minneapolis, but every black man in the city of Minneapolis becomes a suspect. If you don't believe me, ask Mayan Burrell. Every black man in the city. If you don't believe me, ask Philando Castile. Oh, you can't, Philando's dead, so we can't ask Philando. But the over-policing is what we get when you cry, we need more police in Minneapolis. How about investing in things to keep our children out of the prisons? How about investing in things to get these guns out of these kids' hands? We asked for that, and we do know that the governor has $500 million. So the people who have the purse strings won't loosen the purse strings so that we can help our community come out of this state where we need more public safety, more police. You see, let's attack the root problem. We put bills forward to this doggone body, and they tell us no. Our Senate won't even hear our bills. So when Kurt Doubt, Warren Limmer, Paul Gazelka comes and plays politics because they want to run for something next, and they try to push this public safety, they can care less about public safety in Minneapolis or St. Paul. This is not a police state. Everybody should be held accountable for their actions in qualified immunity. The no-knock warrant should have been a no-brainer. No chokehold should have been a no-brainer. Treat black people with dignity. And I ask our body to have the testicular fortitude to pass some meaningful legislation and put the fear of something in these officers, or you can ask for more new officers all you want. The old officers will spoil the broth. Again, training officer, Kim Porter, killed Dante Wright. Again, field training officer, killed George Floyd. We don't need more police. We need oversight over the police that you have right now. We don't need more funding for police. We spent over $36 million protecting our city from an uprising instead of realizing what caused the uprising in the first place, and it's bad policing. So if you're tired of people complaining about the policing, get your boys. We're asking you to look at the police officers in Minneapolis right now. The chief of police sued the city of Minneapolis for racism within this police department. And now you're asking us to trust the same people that you sued. They're still doing the same thing they were doing to Chief Arredondo right now in this day and age. So the faces may have changed, but the tactics are still the same. Until you rid these police departments of white supremacy, the Proud Boys who have infiltrated these doggone police departments all across this state, until you rid that cesspool of these racist white men with these racist ideologies who could turn black men into hashtags, body bags, or felons. This is an ideal job for a racist white man who does not like African American people. And it's being proven time and time again. Stop me when I stop telling the truth. I just ask that we put meaningful legislation in the books so that we can have an even playing field when it comes to dealing with police officers. Because right now the police are policing themselves. they get to tell us that they don't want to patrol the city of Minneapolis because we're critiquing their job. And so when we see the crime in Minneapolis, we also see the officers not doing their job because we're critiquing their job. 300 police officers left the police force over in Minneapolis. If my job was under federal investigation, I'd leave too. 300 police officers left the city of Minneapolis. If my job was under as much scrutiny as this doggone job, I'd find a job somewhere else too. And so don't say we need more police. We need more resources. And we can start with the governor's bag of money that he has. We asked for 2% of the governor's budget to do some community-based solutions in our community. The community knows what we need. And right now we're negotiating for our lives. Again, I'll say this to you. Every time I step to this podium, I'll tell you I'm not psychic. I'm just a black legislator, and there'll be another dead black man by the hands of police or gun violence today, tomorrow, but definitely before the end of this summer. What are you going to do about it? Thank you so much.
We understand that there are a certain group of people that have not experienced what our families and our community have experienced at the hands of police. We understand that for some people, the police do protect them. But that is privileged, upper class, white people. We must call this out for what it is. We must call the truth out. The truth is that poor white people, black and indigenous and minority people have been hurt and harmed at the hands of the police. If a woman is raped, we do not say, because we were never in those shoes, that that didn't happen. We don't treat her like we don't believe her. We don't let the person that did that continue to be out here amongst the community. So why would we do that at the hands of police? Because it has not happened to you or someone that you love does not take away from our stories. We are out here putting our lives on the line to tell the truth. We are out here pleading after we lost the people that we love, pleading with legislators to pass police accountability bills so that our families can have truth and transparency. We thank you all for being here today, and we conclude our press conference for today. Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, could you just give an update for people maybe who haven't been following this as closely as others? Where do the 8 bills stand, and when will we find out whether or not any of them will actually be passed?
The same Republicans that toured Minneapolis yesterday are the same Republicans that are blocking meaningful legislation. They don't seem to think we need police reform. They seem to think we need more police, right? My thing is, when you go to the dentist and you have a rotten tooth, they dig out a decay, all the decay, and they fill it with some good filling. And that's what we're asking for you to do here. There's some decay in these police departments across the state. All we're asking for is meaningful legislation. They refuse to give us a hearing or bend on anything that has to do with police reform. And ironically, they said we don't need to be talking about reform right now because it's not happening in Elk River or Pine County or Wright County. But a brother like me drive through one of those sundown towns and I'll be a victim of the same thing that my friend was. It will be a murder in Pine County or Wright County. These are towns that don't see too many black men. But let me travel my black self through that town and I can be racially profiled and ultimately killed just like these family members here. All we're asking for is to give us what's right, but we're not getting any movement from our Republican colleagues. But they will come to North Minneapolis. As I said, they were just there yesterday, touring North Minneapolis and talking about the crime in Minneapolis and how we need more policing when we're right here now because no accountability for the police that you have right now has been put into law. And so right now, our Republican colleagues don't want to hear anything about police reform, and so we're at a stalemate. And I don't know. I have no idea. Will the government shut down? I have no idea. I just know that they're not hearing anything about police reform. It's like pulling teeth here in this state. Another body will have to drop, and then we'll get like something minor, like, okay, now the task force, every time somebody dies, we get a sprinkle. Every time somebody dies, we get another sprinkle, or another sprinkle. Like right now, these body cams, we thought we had that nipped in the bud. And then Winston Smith was killed, and then we find out, oh, there's a loophole. Task force don't wear body cameras. Well, it's kind of too late, Ramsey County Sheriff and Hennepin County Sheriff, to remove your people from these doggone task force because we have a dead man here. That provision should have already been in the books, you see? So we keep having excuses as to why, these things keep happening and why we don't need reform, right? I'll tell you this. You give some of these kids an opportunity and give them some support, a lot of the crime in our community will go away. You won't even give the kids support or any kind of resources in our community. And so don't come to Minneapolis and tell us you care about Minneapolis. The only thing you care about is protecting police officers who kill black men. And that's what you're showing me. And I ask again to our governor, do you care about black bodies? If so, show me, put your money where your mouth is. We no longer want lip service from the governor's office, Malcolm and Vanessa, what's her name? The governor's chief of whatever they are, Malcolm. And we don't want no more lip service from the governor's office. We want solutions, we want tangible solutions, and we want it now. We're not asking, we're demanding. We always show up and ask civil, but we can be uncivil. Let's be clear, just because I'm a state legislator does not mean that I will ever leave my people. The people are who put me in this position. As you can tell, I'm the only state legislator here right now because I care about the people. I'm not here because the media is here. I'm here because my future is dying in this state. Who else would stand with us? My future is dying by the hands of police and gun violence. We can't fix them both. I think we can. We can fix them both if it was in Wright County. We can fix them both if it was in Polk County. Can we fix it in Hennepin County and Ramsey County in the surrounding areas? And that's why I'm asking. I don't know, Georgia, where the bills stand because they refuse to give us hearings and they refuse to hear anything about police reform. But they will show up and tell you we need more police when we're right here, right now. Our state completely burned down over in Minneapolis. And the only thing they asked was who? They never ask why, because they can care less about the why and fixing the why. They want to hold somebody accountable. Well, I say this, Kurt Dowd. I say this to Jakowski, Warren Limmer, and the governor. You are just as responsible for those fires that were set in Minneapolis as the people who set them, because you have the power to change the conditions that we live in, and you refuse to. Thank you.
Any more questions?
Oh, I was just going to highlight for those who are at home who might not have been following the bill specifically. It is so crucial that you reach out to your representatives and be specific. So when we're talking about these bills, we're talking about House File 717. Gives victims more time to seek justice. This eliminates the civil statute of limitation in cases involving an alleged sexual assault by a peace officer or an alleged act by a peace officer that results in wrongful death. We're talking about House File 2433, which promotes dignity and respect, and is to ensure that each agency will carry out their responsibilities in such a way that will promote dignity and respect. We're talking about House File 640, which enhances community oversight. Talking about House File 1374, which improves officer accountability. It strengthens the police officer misconduct database to build a more effective early warning intervention system and to keep bad officers off the street. We're talking about House File 1762, which restricts no-knock warrants, that imposes new regulations on the use of no-knock warrants by law enforcement, requiring a warrant to have more detailed information about why the method is necessary. And we also are talking about House File 28, expansion of law enforcement training and on dementia, Alzheimer's disease to help peace officers recognize indicators and respond effectively and appropriately. These are just some of them. I didn't go over all of them because I know that we have time limits, but one of the things I want to be clear, it is upon our responsibility. Everyone is culpable. Everyone has power in this instance to reach out to not just their representative, but also their state senator to say, do you support ending qualified immunity? Do you support House file, or do you support, you saying these things specifically actually matters, because right now we're not just going about the broad, oh, we just need reform. These families and this work, they've put in a lot of work in being specific. So it's our duty as community members to be specific in how we're supporting them.
Right. And I'll just say that, you know, one of the other bills is ending police only responses to mental health calls, which will help to address a lot of these police shootings that have happened. On the 3rd, we met with the Speaker of the Senate, Paul Gazelka, and the Governor to try to persuade the Paul Gazelka and with the stories of these families. And in that conversation came up police and whether or not we need more cops on the streets. And I specifically told Paul Gazelka that what we need to pay attention to is we need to pay attention to the response times of the police, because it seems like every time there's a budget year, crime goes up and someone has their hand out asking for dollars from the legislature. And I think it's disingenuous to the legislatures and the governor's office and the elected officials to continuously give the police departments a blank check, knowing that this is the common trend. So we have to look at best practices, we have to look at meaningful legislation, meaningful reforms, and we have to take everything under consideration when making decisions, not just plain politics with our lives, because we matter.
Any more questions? We will conclude the press conference for today. Thank you.
Thanks.